Welcome to the Happiness Happens podcast. I'm Simona Costantini, blogger, storyteller, and life enthusiast. Each week, I will bring you an idea, guest, or positive thought to help inspire you to create happiness and live on purpose. We decide the stories we tell ourselves and where we choose to invest our energy. It's time to cultivate a positive mind for a positive, more meaningful life. I'm so grateful you popped in. Now let's get started. Hello everyone, welcome back to the show. It is episode 19 and we are one more episode away from being 20 episodes into the Happiness Happens podcast. I just wanted to take a second to acknowledge that because how exciting that we are now on 20 episodes when this podcast started out with just one, as obviously many of them do, but that said, I'm very, very grateful that you come back week over week to listen, to learn, and to hear my thoughts around all the topics that I love to talk so much about. I hope that you've also found them really helpful and to have helped inspired your life just slightly in a significant way and in a way that you can help other people and encourage other people as well. So I wanted to save this episode for when we were later on into the podcast, and I love this topic. And it is money. So I love this topic so much because people are always so secretive. They don't want to share much about, their finances, and for good reason. I mean, we don't need to go around talking about, all of our money, all of our debt, our savings, our investments, and all that kind of stuff. But I don't believe that it should be a taboo subject, and I don't think that people should cringe if someone asks you a question about money or a question about investments or a question about anything related to that. I think that it should be an open topic where people feel comfortable to exchange information and to share knowledge. And so that's why I love so much talking about money. One of the things that I've realized over the last little bit is that people who are in relationships hate talking about money. And like I said before, I don't think that it should be a secret, regardless if you are in a relationship or not. Because it's the biggest reason why people fight, and it's the biggest reason why people get into disagreements. This part is obviously specific to relationships, because if you're just friend to friend, you don't always need to tell each other about your financial situation. Though it might be helpful if you are someone who can't afford to do all of the things that your friend wants to do, and to give them a reason and a little bit of more perspective and understanding as to why, this specific event or activity is not feasible for you to do. Talking about money promotes healthy relationships because you learn more about a person. This could be with friends, this could be with a family, this could be with your significant other. And you just have to be prepared though if you are going to have a conversation around money. Not everyone will always understand. You might have some pushback, and you will almost always have opinions that you don't want to hear and other people's judgments towards you. So those three things I would kind of keep in mind before diving into a topic about money, and making sure that you're really okay talking about it before you do, and that you're able to back up your points and not let other people make you feel bad for whatever situation you might be in. So for those of you who know me personally, you will know that I adore keeping a budget. It is my favorite thing in the world. I have been keeping a budget year over year since about 2014 when I was a server and a bartender. And the reason why I decided to start keeping a budget was because I was making all this cash and it was going as quickly as it was coming in. And so finally I wanted to track this and see where my money was going and what it was going to. And I'll be honest, I wasn't very surprised to find out that, particularly in this time of my life, that it was going to alcohol and going out and drinking and eating at restaurants. What I loved so much about this process and starting this process was that it made me very aware of all of the things that I was spending my money on. It tracks your progress, it tracks any savings you have, and it tracks what you make versus what you spend. So it keeps you accountable, it makes you responsible for what you spend, and it allows you to be more mindful and put your money where you really want it to go. This part on mindfulness is especially important because if you work a salary job like I do now, you only have a certain amount that comes in every single month, right? Whereas if you're a server, a bartender, you're a freelancer, or someone who is an entrepreneur, you have the opportunity to make more month over month. But if you're salary, what you have is what you have, and that's pretty much it. Money is obviously a great thing to have. because we all need it, but it doesn't always equal happiness. And so people tend to think that, the more money you have, the less stressed you'll be, the happier you'll be, the more you're going to be able to do. But this is not necessarily the case. It can be very stressful to have money, and it can be very stressful not to have it. If you have it, you might buy more than what you can afford and end up in the negative that way, or spend what you can afford but be so consumed with making money that you never actually get to spend it with people you love. And a lot of the time, if you have money and you're bored, you just go off and you spend it without really realizing what you're spending it on. It can also be really stressful to have money because other people could rely on you to pay bills or to help out if they're falling short month over month. And, it can be very hard, especially if it's someone that you love or someone that is a family member or a friend, to say no to that person. But there are so many reasons why being able to afford life and having money and having a great amount of disposable income are good things, because it's really stressful not to have it. When you don't have money, you're going to worry about how you're going to make ends meet. You're going to be reluctant to take a leap and start that business you've always wanted to start that side hustle that you want to do so badly, and you're going to be reluctant to do it because you're scared that you're going to fail and that you're not going to be able to make the money up to hypothetically quit your day job and do this full time. So there's a lot of fear around not having enough to support yourself. But most of all, when you don't have enough money to live, you just stress all the time about how you're going to live, which can be incredibly stressful on your relationships. It's stressful on yourself. It's stressful on your own health, and it impacts a lot more areas than you actually think. And the challenge around both of these different scenarios is that sometimes in either case, we don't want to talk about it. And so if you don't talk about it and you can't make your payments month over month, can you imagine how stressful that would be for someone? Or if you don't want to talk about it and you have so much money and you could be helping so many people, but you don't want to brag or you don't want to, share or X, Y, and Z, you might feel bad for the people who are around you. And this is a touchy subject because just because you have a lot of money does not mean that someone who does not have a lot of money doesn't work hard, if that makes any sense. Just because you have money does not discount the effort and the amount of jobs or work or what have you that someone who makes less than you puts in every single day. A lot of the times, our circumstances just end up the way that they are. And so you could be working 2 jobs, 16-hour days every single day and still not make ends meet. And it doesn't make anyone lesser than, and it doesn't make you better than. But these reasons are why it's so important for me to talk about money. And I love to talk about it in my relationship in particular. Think about this scenario for a second. If you or your partner want to go out for dinner, and one person can afford it and it's no problem, and the other person cannot afford it, but they do it anyways because they know that it's going to make you happy, it might be a fun time at the time, but it's not fun after the fact, mainly because of the stress around it for that person who can't afford to go out and not wanting to let the other person down. What's also key in this situation is that, if you're with someone and you're the one who's making a bit more, you might feel like you want to go out and you're like, okay, you know what, I'm just going to cover this bill and it's going to be fine and I'll take care of it. But the reality is there's going to be underlying resentment at some point, and you also don't want that person taking advantage of you. So it's a very, very fine line between balancing what each person makes versus what each person spends, and then in turn trying really hard to be mindful of the other person, not making them spend more than they can, or them not making you spend more than you can, and just being very aware of that situation and being aware if you're investing more and you don't have the funds to. It's a really important thing to remember. One of the things that I've learned though, since starting my budget, being in, different relationships over the years, is that money doesn't make you happier. It doesn't equal a happy relationship. Just because you're dating someone who might make a ton of money does not make them a better partner for you. And having more money than somebody else does not make you a nicer person. It doesn't make you a more thoughtful person, and it doesn't make you a more present person. money impacts all of these different areas in some respect, but it doesn't dictate who you are at the core of your being. And if it does, if you're someone saying like, oh, actually, no, it does dictate what I am at the core of my being, you might want to reevaluate your priorities. And I say that in the nicest way possible, because at the end of the day, if you're in a relationship with someone and you're so consumed about, look how great I am, look how much money I have, you might not always be giving your partner the attention and the love that they deserve. And you know what? That might totally work fine for some people. I'm just speaking purely out of my own experience. And on the other hand, this scenario is totally fine if that's how you are, and if that's how you and your partner like to be, and if that's how you and your partner work best together, that's totally, totally okay, because people are so different. Different things make people happy, and who am I to sit here and say what makes you happy or what doesn't? But more often than not, people want time and they want your attention, and just being mindful that you're giving the people in your life the time and the attention that they deserve, because time is something that we don't get back, right? So if money is important to you, which it is for most people and myself included, judging your partner by how much they make or how much they don't make will never make you happier, or vice versa if they're doing that with you as well. What will make you happier is the words of encouragement that you give them and they give you every day, or the attention you give each other after a long day. And it's really in the small things that you do for each other that you know each other will like. On that note as well, at the end of the day, having a high-paying job is probably the best case scenario, because you don't have to worry about as much. And if you have a healthy relationship with money, the odds of you, saving and investing and being strategic are very, very high. But having this high-paying job and having a decent amount of funds in the bank does not make one partner better than the other. Because at the end of the day, you have to be with the person that you're with, and only you has to be with them. So if you put all of your weight and value of a person and how much they make, you might actually find yourself very, very disappointed. So I hope you like this really short intro to my love for money. I'm sure we will talk about it more on the podcast in future episodes. And if there's anything you want to know in particular about money, please let me know. It is like one of my favorite topics to talk about. And it's probably so weird that it is, but I just love it. And yeah, so I hope that this has added a little bit of perspective for your week this week. And I hope that you feel okay about your money situation. Acknowledge where you're at in your finances and know that, it's okay. And if you're not happy with it right now, it's temporary, and there's possibility for growth in every single area of your life. So just because you're in a situation right now does not mean you have to stay in it. And if you're in a really great financial situation, that's absolutely incredible. It allows you to have so much more opportunity and ways to spend your money, and which is great all around. So wishing you a wonderful week, and I will talk to you on the next episode. Thanks so much for being here today. I hope these words have brought you inspiration, insight, and a bit more happiness. Please leave a comment or review if this episode resonates with you. I would be so grateful. Until next time, remember that happiness happens when you're least expecting it.